Very happy and a holy Christmas from all of us here at Real Faith to all of you viewing this program. Well, I have an opportunity at this time to talk about one of my favorite Christmas movies, and I'm going to suspect that any of you have seen it. It's probably one of your favorites too. But I want to try to approach it from a slightly different angle. It's the film, it's Frank Capra's masterpiece, It's a Wonderful Life, starring James Stewart and Donna Reed. For those of you who have never seen it, the plot is excellent. A small town, very unselfish human being thinks he has wasted his life doing things for others, and he seriously contemplates suicide. The film opens, and we see this star in heaven, and it's not the voice of God, but it's the voice of someone in heaven who's kind of like a superior angel. And he says, something is happening on earth which is terrible. Someone's going to give up the greatest gift God has ever given, human life, and we need help. So he calls an angel called Clarence, and he sends him down to persuade George Bailey, that's the name of the character James Stewart is playing, not to commit suicide. And then Clarence gets this, Clarence is very, very simple, but he gets a brilliant idea. He gets the idea that he's going to show George Bailey what the world would have been like if he had never been born. And so what Frank Capra has done, he's really made two movies. This is not only a beautiful story, but it's cinematically brilliant. The scenes where the world exists without George Bailey is really film noir. It's really dark. It's eerie at moments. It's actually frightening, okay? And that Capra was able to pull this off, really have two movies in one is quite good. The scenes where George Bailey is being unselfish, it's bright, it's sunny, everybody's happy, okay? And there's some very, very funny scenes in this film also. Here's just one hint of how brilliant Capra was. When Jimmy Stewart found out the plot, he discovered that at the age of 38 years of age, he was going to be playing somebody slightly out of high school. He said to Frank Capra, Frank, how am I going to do this? And Capra said, don't worry about it. And you know, I have never heard anyone complain that Jimmy Stewart was too old to play this part. Somehow, Capra has pulled it off. It doesn't even enter our mind that he's about 20 years too old to be playing this young guy. The movie came out in 1946. I'm one of the few people, I guess, who saw it when it first came out. I can remember. It was a snowy day. I walked around the corner from where my family lived. And in those days, you never worried about the beginning of a film. You just walked in and figured it out as you went along. Well, I walked in the part of the film where the angel was showing him what the world would be like if he had never lived. And it took me to the end of the film, through the next film, through the coming attractions, probably through a newsreel, probably through a cartoon, to watch the beginning of the film and finally figure out what I had watched. That's really amazing when you think about it now. The people just walked in and figured, we'll figure it out as we go along. I think Frank Capra has been criticized sometimes for being too sentimental. I don't think so. I think of the films he's made. Mr. Deeds Goes to Town, terrific. Meet John Doe, one of the great films. Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, even better. And It's a Wonderful Life. Capra, of course, was a Catholic. And I want to read two things to you, two statements he made. This is a book called Image and Likeness, Religious Visions in American Film Classics. I have an essay in this on It's a Wonderful Life. Now, I'm not going to read what I wrote, but I would like to read two statements that Capra made, and I think he has lived up to both of them in his films. He says, my films will explore the heart not only with logic, but with compassion. I will deal with the little man's doubts, his curses, his loss of faith in himself, in his neighbor, in his God. And I will show the overcoming of doubts, the courageous renewal of faith, and I will remind the little man that his mission on earth is to advance spiritually. And finally, my films must let every man, woman, and child know that God loves them, and that I love them, and that peace and salvation will become a reality when they learn to love each other. Believe me, Frank Capra made movies that convinced you of that. And then this is one more. This is a brief one, but he's talking about comedy. I think pretty much every Frank Capra film would be categorized as a comedy, but it makes the contemporary comedies that are filling theaters now, it makes them look like tragedies. I mean, his comedies are really brilliant. Here's what he said. Comedy is fulfillment, accomplishment, overcoming. It is victory over odds, a triumph of good over evil. Comedy is good news. The Gospels are comedies, a triumph of spirit over matter. The resurrection is the happiest of all endings, man's triumph over death. The Mass is a celebration of that event. Priests and parishioners celebrate a Mass. It is a divine comedy. Now, if you have any doubt about those two quotes, watch It's a Wonderful Life. Even if you've seen it, watch it again. I think it's a deeply Catholic film. I strongly encourage you to view it, and to view it at least a second time. I don't know how many times I've seen it. I just love it.